Hi and welcome to the second video in my series on configuring AutoCAD. My name is Chris, and in this video we're going to talk about template settings. But a word about opening templates before we do this. When you try and open a template for editing, you have to do it from inside of AutoCAD. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And if I were to bring up my my template here, I got it on my drive, I've got it here under screencast, configuring AutoCAD, configuring AutoCAD.dwt right here. If I were to open that up, you'll notice up at the top it opens a DWG. And this is because what it's doing is it's instancing that, that template and making a new drawing from the template when you double click on it. So in order to get around that, I'm going to go ahead and close that here. We're actually not going to open it from Explorer at all. We're going to open it directly from inside of AutoCAD. So we're going to go ahead and open. We're going to go to my desktop, fine. Let's see here. Computer, wherever you have it stored. And in my case, I've got it stored here. And you'll see it's fine looking for DWTs or DWGs right now. We want to change that to a DWT. And it jumps to the template directory automatically. So we're going to have to browse back to the location. I forgot about that. Screencast, here we go. And you can double click on it and you'll see it opens the DWT up here. So if you're having issues reopening your template, that's why. Be aware that you have to open it from inside of AutoCAD. So let's talk about some template settings here. We've got kind of a fat list that we're going to go through, and so I'm going to move through them fairly quickly. The first thing that we want to do after setting all of our drawing variables, which we did in the last video, is set our units and precision. So in order to do that, type units, and it brings up the drawing units dialog. And you'll notice by default it comes in at decimal, and if that's what you'd like, that's fine, it's perfect, you can leave it there. I'm going to be making this template for an architectural drawing set. So let's go ahead and select architectural. I'm going to leave precision at 1/16 of an inch, that's fine for construction. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So that's setting drawing units and precision, and that's done. The next thing we need to do is create text styles, dimension styles, leader styles, and add line types. If you use tables, you'd also want to do table styles in here as well. So let's go ahead and create a text style. In order to do that, you type style, press enter or space or right click or whatever it is that confirms your command. And we're going to create a couple different styles here. The first one we're going to do is we're going to work off the annotative scales. If you're not familiar with the difference between annotative and standard, I'd recommend watching. I made a video in my in a previous series about the difference between annotative and non-annotative scaling. I'd recommend you watch that. I believe it's under my Introduction to AutoCAD video series. So we're going to go ahead and use this as our template, and we're going to be creating annotative styles. So we're going to make a style here. We'll call it dims for dimensions, and we're going to keep that on Arial. And paper text height on that is going to be let's say 1/16. And everything else looks good on that. So let's go ahead and have that one selected. We're going to make a new one based off of that as well. We're going to call this annotation. And this is going to be Century Gothic. And it's going to have a width of 0.85. And this is where you'd also define text styles for things in your title block and all that jazz. You can do that all here if you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and just stick with those two and go ahead and close it. The next thing we're going to do is set our dimension style. So we're going to go dim style, and up comes our dimension style dialog. And we're going to use annotated dimension styles again. We're going to make a new one. is going to be a copy of annotated. We're going to call it dims. We'll just call it standard dims. So we're going to use our annotated one. Use for all dimensions. That's great. And it's annotative. So let's go ahead and continue. We'll start with lines. And again, this is an architectural template that we're working with. So we're going to have this. We're going to change the way this looks a little bit. First thing I like to do is take this down to a 16th. I'm not terribly fond of really huge extension lines, and that's a personal preference thing. Everything else on here looks like it's pretty good though. The next thing we're going to do is change this to an architectural tick. That looks good. And our leader is going to be closed filled. Our arrowhead size is going to be an 1/8. Oops. Be 10% smarter than the object you're trying to operate here. There we go. So that's an 1/8 of an inch for arrowhead size. And break size is good. Jog dimensions fine. Center marks we're going to turn off. We don't want center marks in this template. Those are usually used in mechanical drawings, so we don't need to worry about those. Let's head over to the text. We're going to select dims as our text style, and you can see that comes in annotative, and we want it to be aligned with dimension. And this looks a little funny right now, and again, this is because partially is because of the style of the drawing, and partially because of the size of our dimensions and our annotated scale that we're at and all that jazz. So we should be okay though. Let's go ahead and go to fit, and everything looks good. Let's see here. Let's say overhead dimension line with a leader. That's how I'd like it to be. And we want to make sure that's annotative. And let's head over to primary units. Let's go ahead and change that from decimal to architectural. 1/16 of an inch is fine. I'm a fan of diagonally stacked fractions. You're welcome to do them however you'd like. Whether you want them not stacked, or whether you want them horizontally stacked, or whatever. This is an interesting feature here, this measurement scale factor. If you're doing details, this is really useful to scale this up for your details, so you can draw one-to-one, scale it up, and dimension it, and have the dimensions still function. We're not going to be doing that in this drawing. This is just for basic floor plans and elevations, sections, and all that jazz. So that looks good right there. We don't need to worry about alternative units or tolerances because we're not going to be using either. So let's go ahead and click OK. And that should do it for our dimension styles. Now again, you'll add as many dimension styles as you need to your template. And this is just kind of the basics. The next thing we're going to do is create a leader style. Pardon me. So in order to do that, we're going to type leader style. And up comes our multi-leader style manager. And again, we're going to use annotated text for this. And go ahead and click new. And this is going to be called annotation. Go ahead and click OK. Let's start with our leader format here. This all looks like it's pretty good. Once again, you've got this large head, so I took that down to 1/8 of an inch from 3/16. Let's go to our leader structure. I like the leader to be a spline more than a line. So let's see here. Let's go to a spline, and closed filled is fine. Our break size is fine. Let's go to leader structure. Maximum leader points is 2. That's fine. You can bump that up to however many you'd like that to be. That's however many points you can have if the leader kind of curve around. And I find that 2 is sufficient. And again, we have this annotative. And as far as the content goes, we're going to have that be an M text. We're going to have it use the annotation text style that we created. And everything else should be perfect. So let's go ahead and click OK. We're going to create another one here. This is going to be called callouts. This is going to be annotative again, and I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And this should be based on everything else we've done. So that should be good. That should all work there. And we're just going to change this from an M text to a block. Use the detail callout, the default one that it comes with. And that is perfect right there. Let's go ahead and click OK. We have our callouts and our annotation. I'm going to close that. The next part that we're going to do is we're going to, if you needed to, this is where you do table styles as well. So type table style, up comes your table style dialog, and you'd set how your different tables would function for different schedules or whatever you use tables for. The next point that we're going to hit is to add relevant line types. So we're going to go and type line type, and that becomes our line type manager. And you can see we basically have one line type. It's continuous. You have line type by layer and by block, and that's all wonderful, but continuous is basically the only thing we can do. So let's go ahead and load some additional line types here. Now, given that we're working in an architectural setting, we're not going to use any of these ISO line types. Let's add the hidden line type, and let's add the center line, and that should do it for that. Let's go ahead and click OK, and we've got our line types added to the drawing now. So now if we go to our layers, you'll notice we can make use of any of these line types we just added. You can also load line types from the layers dialog if you'd like. The next thing is kind of a personal preference. I like to draw on the positive quadrant of model space, so this space right here. And in order to identify that without having the grid on, which I'm not fond of the grid, so we can turn that off, I generally will make array, not an array, but array. So type array and start it from 0, 0, turn ortho on, snap one there, and that demarcates my positive quadrant really, really nicely. So I know exactly where I'm working in all that space. In addition to that, you've probably run into this before, where you draw and you hit this issue where you can't pull your drawing board farther than a certain limit, and you can reset that really easily by making a shape that extends beyond those boundaries. So for example, let's go ahead and make a rectangle. I'm going to start it at 0, 0, and I'm going to make it 300 feet by 300 feet. Now it doesn't look like anything changed, but if we zoom extents, you'll see here we have this big space now. And what I've done effectively is just changed the size of the usable area of the drawing so that it will contain at least a 300 by 300 foot square. So this will propagate through every one of your drawings that comes out of this template as well. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. It's served its purpose, and now we know we've got enough scaling to be able to handle that. So the next thing we're going to do is kind of in conjunction with adding these. We're going to put these on a non-plot layer, which means we need to add a non-plot layer in addition to some other layers. So let's go ahead and make a non-plot layer. Let's call it A-NPLT, non-plot. And line type is fine. The color that we're going to pick is going to be something absolutely hideous, or something that sticks out like a sore thumb. So it's going to be either this pink or a yellow. I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose yellow. So we know for a fact if it's yellow, then it's non-plot. We don't touch it. In fact, we'll make it color 2, yellow. So let's go ahead and add some more layers here. So what layers would we have in an architectural template? We'd have a A wall outline, and that wouldn't be yellow. We're going to have that be kind of a darker red. Oops. Bring that back up. Pull this over here so we can work out of it. Now, one thing I'm going to do for this non-plot layer is make sure that it doesn't plot. So I'm going to turn that off and make sure it doesn't show up in new viewports as well. And that should be good for our wall outline. We're going to change the line weight in just a moment after we've created the next layer. We're going to make one called A wall fill. And we're going to make that a lighter red so that you can differentiate the two really easily. And the outline itself is going to have a line weight of 0.8 in our case. We're going to go ahead and make one here called A plumbing. Yep, there it is, my dyslexia. We're going to set this to be a bright green, and this is going to be just the default line weight. Let's go ahead and make one here for a door. The A in front of this is kind of a standard for architectural. So doors and windows we're going to have be blue. So I'll have it be this blue here. So let's go new one, A window. We'll have that be this blue right there. And then we'll have one called A overhead. They put the A in front of there so you can tell which discipline you're dealing with. So if you have S in front of it, it's for structural. If you A for architectural, E for electrical. And those are the only ones I've actually seen. I'm not familiar. There are probably others. We're going to change the overhead line type to be this hidden line type. So anything on that layer is going to pick up that line type. And the color on that is going to be something that is going to stick out as well, because we want to be able to make sure that we know graphically what each kind of category is. So let's go ahead and make that a pink, because nothing else is pink. And let's make one here for appliances. We'll have that be colors. We'll start with color 70 and work off of that. So color 70 is there. We'll have appliances be this darker green. And then furniture is going to be an even darker green. And we don't want these two to be hidden, so we're going to select them, make those continuous, and we're good to go. So we've got some layers in here, and again, you're going to have different sets of layers in your drawings, and that's fine. At work, we've got a cavalcade of different layers that we use. And the drawings can get pretty complicated, but if you set up a template with the layers, and will streamline things a lot, especially when it comes to blocks and all that stuff. We're going to come back to that in another video as well. So the next thing we're going to do is remove, we've got these layers in here. We're going to go ahead and set our origin marking lines here so that they're not layer 0 anymore. They're on this non-plot layer. And there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and get rid of unnecessary layouts or add layouts if we want them. So in this case, I don't want layout 2. Let's go ahead and delete it. There it goes. And what I do want to do is I want to change layout 1 so that in every drawing, layout 1 comes in at D size on a D size sheet. So let's go ahead and go to our page setup manager. We'll modify it. We'll set this so that it sends to QPDF or a PDF writer. My preference is by default to send it to PDF, and to PDF the thing before I print it. Always print off a PDF, and that way you've got a good way to be able to double check your work before you really commit to anything. And I'm going to change the paper size to ArcD, and there we go. It looks good. Right now we don't have any plot styles that we're working with. We're going to come back to plot styles in another video as well. And everything else looks like it's good to go. So let's go ahead and click OK. And notice the sheet changes size and our viewport stays the same size. Let's go ahead and click OK there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and resize the viewport here just roughly. This would be the point at which you could also add a title block to your layout if you have a title block that you're working with and you'd like that to be propagated. I'm going to go ahead and open my layout here. I'm going to turn the grid off to start with because I'm not fond of the grid. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but I really don't like the grid. And we're going to change this to a 1/4 inch scale so that anything in this viewport is now going to show up 1/4 inch. And you can see here it comes in on our origin. So I'm going to pull the origin back to the corner and double click out of the viewport. The next thing I'm going to do is change the viewport so it's on an on-plot layer so that the viewport itself doesn't print. So there we go. Viewport's on an on-plot. Maybe what we'll do is we'll switch the color of our overhead with the color of our non-plot, because that color 210 shows up a lot better on white. So let's see, yellow. There we go. So let's head back to our model, and that is taken care of. And the last thing we want to do is just double check and make sure that our standard text style is the way that we want it to show up on our custom line types. So let's go ahead and type style, select standard here, and you'll notice by default it comes in as 0-inch height, and that's okay for right now. We're going to leave that. But if in the future, if you want custom line types that have letters in them, or if you load custom line types that have letters in them, you can control them with this standard text style. So that's one thing that you can do here. And I'm going to set that to be Century Gothic, because again, I'm Century Gothic geek. Let's see here, 0.85, and there we go. And that is it for the basics of setting up a template. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. If you thought this video was good, go ahead and thumbs up me and like it, and share it. And if you thought this video was life-changing, go ahead and subscribe. I'll bring you more of them. And I will see you in the next video.